That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I can't wait to hear all about this story. So let me just ask you my first question, which is always like a tongue in cheek, to be honest. Um, so what ignited your passion into this holistic health journey? Was it a lifetime dream, or did it emerge through a journey of discovery?
Yeah, that's I love that question. So, you read in my bio that's one thing that I think that's kind of not really included that I didn't include in that is before everything that happened in my teenage years, my early childhood was very traumatic. My parents were abusive. My dad was, physically abusive. My mom was emotionally and verbally abusive and emotionally unavailable. And they were both addicted to drugs. And we were, homeless and on government assistance and all kinds of things. Like it was very traumatic. And then I had those things happen in my teenage years. I remember being very young and wanting to be a pediatrician. So I think I was like born to be a healer. But the exact like way that I do it now in like more holistic medicine, like I is definitely something that evolved over time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's never easy, is it? It's always um it's always a journey of discovery, right? Things that
Yep.
we go through in our lives um just make us take a different direction to even what we thought.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Always different. We've always got this plan. I speak to like the young people in my family, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not sure what I want to do, what career to take or which direction to go." And I just said, just choose something because it's going to change as life evolves,
Right. Yeah.
right? It's just going
Right.
to unfold. So just choose something you like doing and do that until the next thing appears.
Yeah, you almost have to like take action and like experience things before you can make those like, oh, okay, well, I actually don't like it this way. I kind of want it like this way.
Right.
I thought I would be a pediatrician. And then when my brother died when I was 18, I realized I actually wanted to be a nurse, not a doctor. And then as I was in traditional nursing, I realized I actually don't really want to work in the traditional nursing system or in the traditional healthcare system because it's not doing what I align with, which is like healing naturally and
Right.
doing like the deep trauma work and stress management and looking at the whole person, whole body, mind, spirit, wellness. That system just doesn't do that. So I didn't know all that until I went through it.
Right, exactly. So it's an unfolding journey, isn't it?
Hmm.
So who were your see you went through this trauma obviously when you were younger, and then you decided to change and to transition out of the nursing or the traditional healthcare system. Who were your guiding lights? Who were you looking at to when you made that transition?
Um, so as I was going through, my own health journey, so, from birth to 18 years old, I had trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And I spent the period of time from 18 to about 24 in severe like symptomatology. Had all kinds of physical and emotional symptoms, depression, anxiety, panic, insomnia, digestive issues, skin issues, migraines, hormonal issues, everything. I had all of it. And when I was 24 was really when I under suddenly I was exposed to meditation as a form of like therapy, and I realized that there was this whole other kind of like area of healing that I had never known in my training as a nurse and in my life. Um, and so I started pursuing that. And a lot of who I looked up to were people who were in that more like holistic functional space. So I started learning or started meditating with Deepak Chopra. So
Oh,
he was like a good, somebody who I looked up to and really listened a lot to his teachings and to his meditations. And um, Dr. Caroline Leaf. I learned about like neuroplasticity and started hearing her speak and talk about the power of the brain and that connection to trauma and physical symptoms. Um, and then eventually I learned about Dr. Mark Hyman, who is a big name in like functional medicine and his approach to health and yeah, those are kind of like some of the big people. And then like on a personal level, there was really nobody that I had that was doing what I wanted to do. But some of the, people who supported me the most through that were my husband and my mother-in-law and my husband's whole family, but really, um, my husband was a big, like, just kept encouraging me to just lean in and keep going and kept telling me like you're onto something. This is fueling you. This is good. You should keep going. And same with my mother-in-law and the rest of his family. It was just all very supportive and um not in the healthcare industry at all, but all very like supportive of what I was doing. So
it's right. That's really nice to get that support around you, isn't it? When you're traversing into new on a new path.
yeah.
It's funny you find Deepak Chopra. I didn't find Deepak Chopra for until later on, but I remember the first meditation I did in the 90s, and that was after reading James Redfield's book. Um, and that was it was an incredible it was an incredible experience. But it's funny, but I found Deepak Chopra later, and I think that we still it's still so underrated, isn't it? Meditation and how the effects on the brain from
Yeah.
trauma, and all these different things. Now it's sort of starting to align with science, which is really nice. I really
Yeah, it's
like that.
becoming way more prevalent for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
And we're paying more attention to like, oh wow, there is like this mind body connection and there is like a serious impact on childhood trauma with experiences later in life and illnesses later in life. So
yeah.
I'm really happy to see that transition.
Yeah, mind, body, soul, right? It is all connected. Yeah,
Hmm.
because it was all woo woo years ago, and now it's like,
Yeah. They're like,
okay,
don't
so
be silly.
now
Yeah.
it's what are you talking about? What's that nonsense you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Now it's all
Yep.
sort of aligning together with science, and I love that. I really love that, and I think there's some really shining stars talking about that.
Yeah.
Mel Robbins, I love. She talks about that type of
Yeah.
thing.
I love
Brene
her. Yeah.
Brown, you know, and Deepak Chopra as well has been a big impact on that
Yeah. And
movement.
Gabor Mate.
Yeah, yeah,
He's The Body Keeps the Score. That book is oh, that's Bessel van der Kolk. But anyway, yeah.
yeah.
Gabor Mate
But
talks
there
about it a
are there
lot
are
too.
lots of we're
Yeah.
starting to take notice, aren't we? We're starting to take notice. But that's really nice. That's crucial that you had your family to support you on the
Yeah.
journey, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
went traveling, so that my journey was completely different, but my family came with me vicariously. So, what do you think was the biggest leap of faith that you took then? Do you think it was leaving the nursing tradition?
Um, yeah, I think there was a couple, probably like leaving traditional nursing, like to pursue more like holistic medicine. So I transitioned, I've been a nurse for 15 years. About 5 years ago, was 4 years ago actually, I transitioned out of traditional medicine into more like natural medicine. So I worked for a chiropractor for a period of time, worked for a wellness clinic, and those were great. And I think it was a good stepping stone for me. But ultimately, like what I knew even like even more plus, years ago, was that I really wanted to be my own boss because I wanted to help people in the way that I wanted to help people. And I also wanted to have the freedom and flexibility to be home with my family more. And I think that that's something for that I've always struggled with is finding balance between like being a working mom and also having a family. And that for me, there was no way. Balance is kind of a facade. I don't think it's something that you can actually really achieve. Like different seasons call us for different things. But I was always like that I couldn't get closer to that balance that I was wanting by in a role that I was working for somebody else. So the other leap of faith was really like the January 2023 I opened my own business and then doing functional health coaching. And then I did in August, I quit my full-time job and went full-time in my business in August of 2023. So that was a huge leap of faith. Like a solid, like, here's your paycheck, whether you have work or not, and
Right.
benefits and all of those things, to then like being an entrepreneur. And as an RN, like I've been taught my whole career is like you can't do anything without a doctor. And you can't have, like you're gonna have your own business. Like people in traditional medicine literally will laugh at me about that.
Right, right. And it is a huge leap of faith, isn't it? When you finally transition out of that corporate job or the traditional 9 to 5 to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game. And I think that many entrepreneurs are unprepared, as I was. I mean, I transitioned slowly, but still there was a lot to learn. I was like, okay, it's like writing a book. You don't realize, that it's not just the writing, it's the editing and the copy and the everything else that goes into it. There's a lot involved, isn't there, Melissa?
Yeah. 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 Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. That's for sure. And like, I think some people, I think, just have a natural, even in like a corporate job, they might have more exposure, but like in the medical field, like as an RN, I had not one clue about having my own business. I didn't have
Right.
any idea what that would look like and how to run a business and how to like P&L statements and all that. Actually, that's kind of a lie. I did know a little bit because my husband's an entrepreneur.
Right.
But like
That's a bonus.
doing it myself, I was like, I was in for
Yeah,
a ride for
a
sure.
few surprises here and there, right?
Yeah, just a few. Yeah.
Yeah, who's the technical support? Oh, that's me. Who's the marketing? Oh, that's me again. Who's
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Wait, do I have any support around here? No,
Is there
no.
anybody here?
Yeah.
Can I get yeah. Um so obviously on this journey, this entrepreneurial journey, there's self-doubt and fear, isn't there? Always,
Oh,
because
yeah.
so how did you overcome those challenges to stay focused?
Yeah, I think self-doubt and fear, it's like new level, new devil. Like it's always there. It doesn't go
Like
away. It's not like I've like come to a place where I'm like I don't have fear anymore. Like it's always there. It's just um taking action and moving forward in spite of that, and focusing on what I know to be true. And what I know to be true is that I am valuable and I have something to offer and I can help change people's lives. And there's always going to be this, sense of like, oh, am I doing it right? And like, am I really worthy? And that's just kind of the ongoing internal work. I think like entrepreneurship is like the biggest, most intense personal growth journey that you'll ever do, because it like really just highlights all of your inadequacies, and like where areas where you still need to grow and learn and change. So that's, I think, how I overcome it, is just continuing to focus on myself and growing myself and being gracious with myself, and not focusing on like, oh, I made that mistake, or oh, I did this wrong or whatever. It's like, yeah, well, now I know. You know better, you do
Yeah.
better.
I like that new level, new devil. It's not the first time I've heard that, but it's been a while since I've heard it. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it is about staying in your lane, isn't it? Because there's so much noise
Oh yeah.
from so many different people saying, oh, you've got to do it
Yeah.
like this, or like this, or like this, or
Yeah.
like this. And it's
Yeah.
pretty much, I suppose that would be like going back into the the 9 to 5, where they're
Yeah.
saying it has to be done like this. You have to do
Yeah.
it this way and this way and this way. And
Yeah.
there's no gray area. It's just black and white. And I think
Yeah. And
there's lots of
they're not necessarily wrong. Like a lot of people, like, it might work for them, but like that's one thing that I've learned is like when I hear people say like, oh, this is how you should do it, I always take that information and then evaluate it for like, well, would that work for me? Because
right.
that's not necessarily wrong. If it worked for you, like, go, great, I'm glad. Like, but it might not work for me for one reason or another. It might not be aligned, or maybe it doesn't work for my business structure, or like that's not how it doesn't feel like genuine to me, or some, anything. Like social media is a great example, because
Yeah.
social media, like, I don't like social media. It affects my mental health. I find myself, if I'm on social media a lot and get into this doom scroll. I was just talking about
Doom.
this
I
on
was just going to say doom scrolling, right?
yeah. I was just talking about this on a podcast right before this, is like I, get into that cycle of like doom scrolling, and then you get into this like comparisonitis, and then you're like, oh well, I should be doing it that way, and then you find yourself like in this cycle of like negative self-talk, self-doubt, fear. All of those things start to come up more. So like I have a healthy distance with
Mhm.
social media. I don't get on social media every day. I've had a lot of business people, I've had a business coach before tell me, you should be posting on social media every single day, like you should be
Yeah.
documenting everything, and I'm like, it just doesn't work for me. And I'll tell you what, my business is doing fine. Like
Yeah.
I have plenty of clients and I have plenty of people reaching out to me. I prefer this type of marketing. Like I prefer podcasts. And I don't create reels and do, as a general rule. Like I do sometimes, but like for the most part, I you have to evaluate what is going to work for you. And it might not
Yeah.
work for you if somebody else is saying do that.
No, I totally hear you. I'm the same. That I've heard coaches say you've got to be posting every day, and it's the same. And you just burn out in the end if you haven't got anybody to help you with your social medias, with outsourcing it. You can't manage everything. It's just not sustainable long term.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
people who really like it and it comes like
yeah,
really naturally and easy, it might be easy to post every day. But for me, it takes a lot of emotional and mental energy. And that's just not energy that I want to put into that type of that part of my business. I want to put that energy somewhere else.
yeah,
And for me, like this is a way better use of my time than spending an hour creating a reel.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. I focus on the joy. That's what I
Hmm.
teach, right? Focus on the joy. What brings you joy? If it's not working for you, don't do it.
Don't
Um,
do
and
it.
I and I
Yeah.
did find, and I found the same as you, that when I was posting all the time and I've got to post, I've got to post, and then you're just posting for the sake of posting, and it just becomes
Yeah.
irrelevant.
Yeah. And
You know?
people know that. And I think your energy, you're like, your people know that. They pick up on that. And
Oh
the
yeah,
content will reflect that. If you're not genuinely interested in it, like the stuff that I post now is really genuine and true to who I am and my mission and my values, and
yeah,
people know that. And
yeah.
it's the same with like everything, right? Like not just in business too. Like I had a client the other day tell me, I work with women who are overcoming the physical and emotional symptoms of trauma to heal their mind, body, and spirit. Well, I'm always kind of like I work with a lot with moms, and I'm working, I had a client who has two little kids and is like really struggling to make even just the smallest amount of time for herself. And so I had been encouraging her to do things for herself. And I had told her at one point, like, maybe take a bath, like go take an Epsom salt bath. It'll help with detox. It'll help with your stress. It'll give you a little bit of time for yourself. Like do it at night after the kids in bed. She was trying that for a couple weeks, and she came to me, I don't know, a week or two ago, and on our call, she says, "Oh my gosh, I had the best realization the other day." And I'm like, "What was it?" She's like, "I hate baths." And I'm like, "That's amazing. I'm so glad that you found that out." And she was kind of like, "Wait, what? You think that's amazing?" And I was like, she's like, "I thought you would like tell me that I have to do it." And I'm like, "No, I'm so happy that
Yeah,
you know that you hate baths.
Yeah.
Don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Right. What
Let's
does
find
follow?
something else.
Right.
I
Exactly.
love baths,
Me
and I
too.
think you're crazy that you don't like it, but that's great that you figured that out. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point.
It is the point. It is the point. Absolutely. You know, I live in the middle of nature and it's not for everybody. I'm very quiet. I'm quite isolated. I love it. It's not
Yeah.
for everybody. They love the convenience. I love the inconvenience.
Yeah.
But, you know,
That's perfect. That's
that's
the
my,
beauty of
that's what
life is
brings
that we're all
me joy.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So how do you stay? Because you're quite a motivated person, aren't you? I can feel the energy. So what strategies do you use for you to stay motivated and inspired, especially when you've got external pressures and you've obviously got a family as well?
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you how do
So
you do that?
people are probably going to disagree with this, but like first and foremost, I take care of myself. I do. I have two little kids. I have a 4 and an 8-year-old, two little boys. And like acutely, I always take care of their needs first, right? Like if somebody needs me to wipe their butt or fix them food or do something like acute needs, I take care of them first. But by and large, across the board, I take care of me first. It's the oxygen mask kind of like analogy. Like if we're on a plane and the oxygen masks fall down, like I put the oxygen on me first because I'm no use to my kids if I'm dead, you know?
That
And
exactly. It's a
yeah,
great analogy, isn't it?
yeah, so I take care of me first and I pour into me first so that I can show up as a really good mom, as a really good coach, as a really good wife. Because if I don't pour into me first, and believe me, I've made that mistake before, and that's why I know this, because I've actually done that before, where I've
Right.
not poured
Right.
into myself, and then I've shown up horribly across the board because I'm so burnt out and depleted, and I have nothing left to give. Every ounce of me is being given to everybody else.
Right.
So, and it's something that health and like life, I feel like it's not a destination, it's a journey. So like
It's a journey.
yeah, I still get into these like times where I'm like, all of a sudden I like life slaps me across the face and I'm like, oh wait, like I have totally not been taking care of myself. Let me like back up and really take a look at like what is going on and how do I like what can I do right now to start taking care of myself. I'm very aware of like how I feel physically. So I'm very like in touch with my body, and I practice like mindfulness, I practice meditation daily, I read my Bible daily. Like I have practices that I do for my own like spiritual, emotional, mental health that I pour into myself, and then I'm really in touch with myself throughout the days, and I listen to my body. And if I've got a lot of stuff going on, right, like then I take a step back. Like right now, actually, like my family is going through a really hard time. My mother-in-law had a heart attack on Sunday, and she's in critical condition in an ICU right now. And
Okay.
she's 1,200 miles away.
Oh God.
And we're heading out of town tomorrow to go be with them. And it's Thanksgiving coming up. It's like my birthday's coming up. Like this is not how I saw next week going.
Right.
And we're praying for a miracle, but like this has been really stressful. So what I've done is there was multiple things on my schedule this week that I knew that were not um gonna were not did not need to happen this week.
Right.
So I canceled a lot of things. I shifted my schedule. I allowed myself, normally I wake up at 4 a.m. and I have like my morning routine. I work out, I read my Bible, I meditate, and I'm like making the kids breakfast and their lunch before they even wake up. And this week I'm like, nope, I'm getting the extra sleep because I know that that's what I need right now for my emotional and mental health. Like, this is
Right.
not the week for me to grind like I normally do. Like
Right.
I need to be really in touch with myself. I need to give myself a lot of grace. And I canceled like 80% of what was on my schedule this week just to give myself that white space to have those emotional ups and downs. Like, yeah, I've been spending a lot of time on the phone with my father-in-law and talking to, like the rest of the family and coordinating. Now we're going out to, driving 1,200 miles instead of flying because plane tickets are $3,000 for us to fly, like,
God.
so there's a lot of coordination, and I'm just being gentle with myself. But that's just kind of like, that's my stance on life in general, is like always checking in with me and like, how does this feel inside of my body? And what is best for me? I'm not going to listen to the external. I'm not going to listen to this, devil on my shoulder that's kind of always there from all of the trauma that tells me that I'm not good enough, or that I should work harder, or that I should be getting more done. No, I know that I'm getting enough done. I know that, I love myself. I know how I show up as a mom and a wife and a entrepreneur and as a coach. And I'm going to be gentle with myself and give myself the grace that I deserve. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But isn't that goes back to the entrepreneurial journey and the amazing personal growth you get as an entrepreneur, and the amazing awareness, self-awareness that we have. And we realize that if we've got to take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
you've got
Yep.
to give yourself the space and the kindness, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, right?
Yeah. Such an important lesson. I think so many people, I mean, like the clients that I work with a lot of times have this like deep, deep trauma that has created these narratives and this negative, repetitive, negative self-talk that a lot of times like they're not even aware of. Like, so just bringing that awareness and like, hey, like, how are you actually talking to yourself? And like, if you were to, shift that, like, what would that look like for you? What would that mean? What would have to change? You know?
Well, we neglect ourselves a lot, don't we? We put everybody else first. It's just
Oh
a
yeah.
it's it's a pandemic of it, right? As women,
Oh yeah.
especially, we just put
Yep.
everybody else first, and we totally neglect ourselves. And I think it's
Yeah.
a big learning curve, excuse me, as an entrepreneur, that we have this self-awareness, we have this personal growth, and we're forced into taking care of ourselves because we know,
Yeah. 100%.
right? Right.
Yeah.
Um, so let's just take that as a valuable lesson. So, so what other valuable lessons have you learned about yourself and your goals on your journey?
Um, what other lessons have I learned about myself? That, I mean, failure, I've completely shifted my opinion and perspective of failure. And I think that's a big thing, like in life and entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
in business and health and everything. Like, failure is shifting the way we look at that, and how we interpret failure is can make or break our experience, really. Because
Yeah.
if you look at failure as something bad and negative and beat yourself up over it,
Mm.
you stay there and it doesn't serve you. And I think now I look at failure as an opportunity and, growth. And now you know what not to do, or now you know who you don't want to be, or, oh yeah, I totally messed that up. Well, now I know. And just giving yourself the grace, and like, everybody fails,
Yeah.
everybody. And that's like, and most people, like, going back to the fear thing we were just talking about, like, most people's like fear, their fear is of failure. And it's like, why be afraid of it? Because like, failure, every time you mess something up, like, that's just another opportunity for you to get better.
Yeah.
And if you just never take action because you're afraid of failure, like, how the greatest people in the world fail. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's a famous Thomas Edison created the light bulb, right? And like, there was a famous quote, something along the lines of like, somebody asked him when he created the light bulb, like, how do you feel that you've failed like 1,000 times? And he's like, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned 999 ways to not make a light bulb.
Not to do it, right?
Yeah. And like Michael
Exactly.
Jordan, like, Michael Jordan was cut from his uh high school basketball team like 2 times. Cut. Like, imagine if he would have just stopped and been like, oh, like, arguably like the best basketball player of all time, right? And he's like, imagine if he would have just been like, well, I suck at basketball. I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
Like, same thing. Like Oprah Winfrey, like,
Yeah.
fired from her first uh uh she was a news anchor, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah.
fired from that
Yeah,
job.
they're
Like
all stories of failures, right? I mean,
everybody fails, and it's
it's
just an opportunity for
just a learning
growth.
curve. It's just a learning
Mhm.
curve to and an opportunity, like you said, to grow, to learn and grow about
Yeah.
ourselves and not give up if you've got a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't give up. Try a different way,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing, really, the lessons that we learn on the way.
Yeah.
And there is,
It's a beautiful journey.
yeah, it is a beautiful journey. And, I'm very grateful to be alive at this time of our in this century, at this time of our in on the planet, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it is this failure and success. It's hyped up, isn't it? It's really
Yeah.
hyped up, and it shouldn't be. Because
Yeah.
success, people equate success to money, and success is not necessarily money.
Yeah.
It's balance. It's having the joy. It's having something, a family that you love, people that you love, feeling good about yourself and happy, and you know,
Yeah. That's
it,
worth
it-
so much more than money.
right, absolutely, right. Having
Mhm.
the freedom to do things and on and on, right. Everybody's got their own version of success.
Yeah.
Right. So that was one of my questions was how do you define success in the context of your dreams and goals?
Yeah. I think just kind of how you just did. Like I would say success to me, well, first and foremost, like it's most important to me to raise happy, healthy, well-adjusted, um, godly children. That's what I'm trying to do. Um, and my kids now have a completely different upbringing than I did, which is something that makes me very proud.
Right.
And creating a safe family home atmosphere for them is a huge part of my success. And then like moving outward from that, like definitely like this internal like peace and joy and that I have inside of me. And then also like being completely aware of and content with my past and knowing that this is literally my calling. Like, this is why I was put on this earth at this moment, is because I was supposed to go through all that stuff that I was supposed to go through so that I could help people in the way that I'm helping people and share my story. My mess is my message.
Ah, I like that. Yeah, your message. Yeah, it is it sets you up. You think, well, why am I going through this? Why did I go through all of that? And it's part of the journey to
Yeah.
become greater, to become aware of it, to become
Yeah.
aware of your story, make your story part of who you are. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't run away from it.
Yeah.
It's part of your makeup.
Yeah. Yeah. I spent a lot of years actually like ashamed of my story. And I felt like, if
Yeah.
I remember like, even just a few years ago, like I would walk into a room and just think to myself, like, if these people only knew my story, like they would never accept me. And it's completely the opposite. It's
It
it's like
is.
once I started sharing like the nitty-gritty dark details of my story, it was like all of a sudden like my world even just like opened up even
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
and I have people messaging me and reaching out to me all the time. Oh, I heard you on this podcast, or heard you speak here, or like you made such an impact, and like this, like it's just I'm gonna write a book. One day I'm gonna write a book.
Everybody has a book in them. Everybody,
Yeah.
right? But it is, isn't it? Own it. Own your
Yeah.
story because,
Yeah.
and be proud of it because those moments made you who you are today,
Hmm. Yeah, and
right?
we all have a story. We all have a journey.
So that leads me into the next question. What are some of the unexpected benefits or rewards that you've gained from pursuing this life as a holistic coach?
I think the best one is like really feeling. I realized this in I think it was like March of this year, I was sharing my story on a podcast. I was going through like my childhood trauma and all of that. And the host said to me, which is pretty common. Most people's response to everything that, my story when I'm sharing it is like, oh my gosh, like I am so sorry. Like that's incredible. Nobody should ever have to go through all of that. And I'm having a conversation with the host and he said that to me. He said, I'm so sorry for everything that you've been through. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that I was like, you know what? I'm not. I'm not even like, do I want to go live it? No. Relive it? No, I don't.
I,
But I'm not sorry at all. And like, I'm good. I'm good. Like I've done so much healing work and like I'm at peace with it. Like I forgive my parents. Like I don't hold on to any of that
yeah,
anymore. Like it's part of my story, but it doesn't control me at all. Um, and that's, I think, probably and then like I realized in that moment when I was talking to him I'm not sorry because I know for a fact that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that was all part of this. Like I had to go through all of that to be here. And I'm more fulfilled and happy and just like have this like deep inner peace, just feeling in alignment with my calling and my purpose in life. I think is probably absolutely like number one best thing that's come out of it.
yeah. I couldn't agree more with the forgiveness. You've got to forgive. And if you keep holding on to that, you keep holding on to, you know, that grudge, that,
Yeah.
that it's their fault. It comes from a place of fear
Yeah.
because we're afraid to forgive because it's a weakness. We've been taught
Yeah.
it's weakness and it's not. It's
Yeah,
a
for
strength.
unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. It's
Yeah,
really like forgiveness is not about the other person. It's really about
yeah,
freedom for
yeah,
yourself and letting go of that. And most of the time, like, a lot of what happened to me is like really, really awful and like the craziest, worst things that you can think of a child going through. But like, honestly, like my parents were doing the best that they could. They also had a ton of trauma. Like it goes back 5 generations in my
right,
family,
right,
Like my
right.
dad was like really horribly like sexually abused by his dad. And my mom was physically abused by her mom. And before that, and her mom and her mom and her, like, so it just, they were doing the best they can. And I have empathy for them. And I pray for peace for them, you know?
And I always say, look, nobody wrote the book on how to be the mother, how to be the father, how to be the sister or the brother or the partner, because literally everybody is different. Every relationship is different. You
Yeah.
cannot, you cannot cookie cutter it. You cannot give because everything's different. And like you said, you've got those extenuating circumstances of generational trauma that also you got to put that into the mix.
Yeah.
So it's everybody has a different experience, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yep.
And but I do think that forgiving and having some empathy is definitely the opposite of the toxic that you'll get if you don't, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Such an important piece.
So, what do you hope that your story and your entrepreneurial journey will inspire in other women who are listening today? What message do you want to convey to them?
Yeah. My message is always for people. I really want people to understand that healing is always possible. It's, it doesn't matter like what the doctors have said, what your past was like, what experiences you've had, how you've been talking to yourself, or what condition you're in now, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like none of that matters. What matters is that healing is literally always possible. All you have to do is just take the first step. And remember that it's a journey, not a destination. You're never going to get to a place where you're just like, all of a sudden, you're like, well, I've worked through it all. I have nothing left to get, like nothing left to work through. It's new level, new devil. You just have to, it's an ongoing journey. You just get better at it.
Very good. And if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I just got asked this the other day or a couple weeks ago, and I think um what something that took me so long to really like believe in my deep in my soul was that I'm worth it. And that's what I would say. You're worth it. We all are.
Absolutely. We're all worth it. And
Mhm.
so a million thanks to Melissa for joining me today. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering. You'll find all you need to know about both of us in the details below. And until next time, this is Beth and Melissa signing off.
Bye-bye.